My name is Margaret Hale, I am 72 years old, and I was a school librarian for 4 decades before arthritis turned my hands into stubborn weather vanes that point wherever the pain blows, but I still turn pages like a soldier folds flags, careful and proud. Do you know why that matters tonight? I stood at the top of the landing, clothes wrinkled from sleeping in a chair, when the sheriff's knock thundered through my old Victorian house like a drum from the past, and I watched my son, Peter, and his wife, Lauren, freeze with forks midair as the notice slid under the door. What paper could turn a house into a battlefield so quickly? Lauren hissed my name like it tasted bad, whispering, "She'll ruin everything," while Peter stared at the envelope as if it were a live wire, and the sound of their fear tasted better than the cold tea in my cup. What were they so sure I could not undo? I had sent that paper yesterday from the lawyer's office I paid for with a secret savings account, the one Peter mocked as Grandma Pennies. But I learned long ago that drops of rain can wear down stone. So what storm had I been building all these years without them knowing? The sheriff stepped in and tipped his hat to me, the only person in the room with gray hair and clean conscience, then called for Peter Hale and Lauren Hale. While my heart pounded like a clock I had wound myself, could justice really arrive wearing a badge and muddy boots? Notice of title correction, he read. Effective immediately, ownership reverts to Margaret Hale, and Lauren's knife clanged against the plate while Peter's mouth fell open, because they knew something I knew too. 6 weeks ago, they locked me in the attic and told the neighbors I'd taken a long visit to my sisters. How long can a secret like that stay quiet? I can still feel the splinter that lodged in my palm as the attic latch slammed and the light disappeared, leaving boxes of old lesson plans and a dusty cedar trunk for company. And my own breath became a stranger to me. How does a mother listen to her child turn a key on her life? "Just until we figure out the finances," Lauren had said through the door, voice sugared with lies, and I pressed my ear to the old boards and heard them laugh downstairs, then clink glasses as if I were a problem solved. What kind of toast do you make when you think you've erased the woman who raised your husband? The heat swelled that first day, and my joints swelled with it, but I found the attic window latch loose and jimmied it open with a coat hanger, feeling the night air like a hymn. Who taught me to be patient if not the years and 1,000 whispering books? I counted cars on the road to pass time, whispered stories to the dust to keep my mind straight, and chewed peppermint from my cardigan pocket like a soldier rationing bread, because survival lives inside small things. How could they forget I'm from a generation that stretches pennies into ladders? When Peter came up with a tray the third day, he wouldn't look at me long, setting the plate by the trunk and sliding back toward the door, but I caught the handle with both hands and said his name like a bell. How heavy does shame grow when a son sees his mother's eyes? He yanked free and muttered, "You won't understand," and Lauren called from below, "Hurry, the realtor's on the line," and that one word, realtor, snapped something straight inside me that grief had bent. What else can make a woman stand up like a storm but the threat of losing her home? They planned to sell the house, pocket the money, and move to a new build with white cabinets and a neighborhood gym, while I, they said, would settle somewhere simpler. Which is a cruel way to name a room without memories. Why do people think a house is drywall when it is really a scrapbook with a front door? The night I climbed onto the cedar trunk to reach the window fully, the trunk creaked with my weight and the attic breathed out the years, and I smelled old cedar, old chalk, old hope, the things that outlive plans. Could the past itself become a ladder if you trust its rungs? I waited until the street went quiet, then pushed the window wider and looked down at the trellis Peter had never gotten around to removing, the one I begged him to keep because the roses loved it. Can neglect become a blessing when you need a way out? I tied my cardigan sleeves to the sash like a makeshift rope to steady my shoulders, then turned, slid my legs out, and felt for the wood, my hands screaming, my knees cursing, my spine remembering every snowfall I had shoveled. What keeps a 72-year-old from falling if not the stubborn promise she made to herself? Halfway down, a nail bit my wrist and I gasped, but I kept moving, listening for voices from inside and sirens from the road. And when my feet hit the flower bed I almost cried at the soft give of soil. How can dirt feel kinder than blood? I walked the long way to town, favoring my right knee and cradling my wounded hand in my pocket, and the streetlights winked like co-conspirators as I passed, because our little town knows me, and I know it back. Who else remembers the library's leaky roof and the bake sales that patched it? At dawn I rang the bell of an old friend, Tom Avery, now the lawyer who still carries a fishing knife and fair eyes, and when he opened the door and saw me shaking, he said nothing, only put the kettle on. What words can be heavier than silence when the right person is listening? I told him everything. The attic, the key, the realtor, the plans to sell the house my late husband and I rebuilt after the kitchen fire. And Tom set his jaw like a gate and pulled 2 files from a cabinet. What armor is thicker than paper signed in the light of morning? Years ago after the fire I had made a life estate deed. My home would remain mine until I died, no matter whose name sat prettily in the margins, and Tom had kept a copy because he said people forget the things that protect them. How could my son forget the law when he studied finance and tutored algebra in my living room? We filed for title correction before the town clerk finished her muffin, and Tom stamped the packet like a judge of small kingdoms. Then he called the sheriff so the words I needed would carry boots and authority. What good is truth if it cannot walk to your door? Now, back in my kitchen, Lauren's voice sharpened as she stepped toward me, and Peter hovered near the wall, where his first-grade finger paintings used to hang before she took them down for a mirror, and the sheriff laid the paper on the table between us. Can a single sheet weigh as much as a house? Mrs. Hale retains possession, effective immediately, he said, and Lauren laughed, a thin glass sound, then turned it into a choke, because a woman who counts money faster than feelings knows a loss when she hears it. What happens to a plan when its floorboards are the ones you tried to steal? Peter looked at me, cheeks pale, eyes the same soft blue they were when he begged for one more chapter at bedtime. And for a second I saw my boy reach for me from inside the man. How far can a child's voice travel through the walls we build as adults? I just wanted us to be secure, he said, but the words sagged under their own weight, because security built on cruelty crumbles like wet sand, and I held his gaze without anger, only a deep, bone-tired ache. How do you forgive someone who locked you away but still carries your lullabies? Lauren stepped closer to the sheriff, voice tight. This must be a mistake, and he tapped the seal with 2 blunt fingers, the sound neat and final, like a book closing at the end of a long chapter. What do people do when the ending is not the one they wrote for themselves? I set my teacup down, hands steady now that the ground had returned beneath me, and I said the 3 words that hung in my chest all night. Please leave now. Simple as turning a page, firm as a binding. Would they go quietly, or would the house hear one last terrible echo? The sheriff shifted his weight, ready to enforce the paper that carried my name like a lantern, and Lauren's eyes narrowed as she looked past me, toward the hallway that led to the attic stairs, as if the house itself might argue in her favor. What would she find up there if she climbed, dust or the ghost of her own choices? Peter swallowed and took a step, then another toward the door, and the moment stretched like the pause before a storm breaks, a breath too long to be safe, while the roses outside brushed the window with a sound like whispers. Would he apologize, or would he take the last shred of decency and run? He reached for the knob, then stopped, shoulders shaking, and turned his head just enough for me to see the boy he had been and the man he had become, a crossroads that wouldn't stand still, and his lips parted. What word was going to leave his mouth first? Sorry or Sue? The sheriff's radio crackled, the kettle clicked off on its own, and Lauren's phone lit up with the realtor's name, all 3 sounds chiming like a cruel choir, while my heart kept time with a quieter rhythm I have trusted for 72 years. Was this the moment peace would finally step through the door, or would the war begin all over again? Mom, Peter whispered, and the house held its breath with me as the words steadied him. But Lauren's hand clamped his arm hard enough to whiten her knuckles, and she shook her head as if to jar the word loose. Would he let her erase the one thing that could save him? Before he could try again, tires hissed on the gravel, and a second car door slammed outside. Tom Avery had arrived to witness the posting, a stack of photographs peeking from his folder, images of the attic door, the latch, the marks on my wrist. What happens when truth brings pictures to a liar's table? Tom stepped into the kitchen and tipped his head, not to me this time but to the house, like a man honoring a church, then laid the photos down where we'd celebrated every birthday for 30 years. How many candles do you have to blow out before someone stops wishing for your silence? Lauren backed away, calculating, eyes skittering across the papers, the sheriff, the photos, as if she could rearrange the letters of this moment to spell a different future. And Peter's mouth opened again, the word Mom hanging like a bridge. Would he cross it or cut the ropes himself? And then Tom lifted one last page, a copy of the police report we hadn't filed yet, with a blank line waiting for a signature, and the room shrank to the scratch of my pen cap between my fingers. Was I about to sign their path back to decency, or the road that would end in a courtroom with no roses outside the window? Want the next chapter right away? Like this video, subscribe and comment, continue Grandma, so the next chapter drops immediately. The papers lay scattered on the kitchen table like fallen leaves, the sheriff's seal heavy as a tombstone, but my son Peter still hadn't chosen which way his heart would lean. His lips moved around a word he couldn't quite let loose, while Lauren's nails dug crescents into his arm, tethering him to silence. And there I was, standing in my own house, knowing the battle wasn't over, because a wounded pride can claw more fiercely than hunger. Would they leave peacefully, or would the storm inside them break wide open? Tom cleared his throat and slid the photographs closer, the image of the attic door so sharp it almost groaned from the page. Peter's eyes flickered down, and his face drained of color, the truth pressing against him like a loaded weight. But Lauren, ever the fighter when cornered, leaned forward and spat. "This is your doing, old woman. You've poisoned him against me." Was she blind to the fact that her fingerprints were on every lock and every lie? The sheriff stepped closer, boots firm against the wooden floor. "Ma'am, I'd advise you to leave quietly before this becomes criminal." His words were like cold iron. But Lauren laughed again, high and brittle, as if she could drown reason with noise. She grabbed Peter's hand and hissed, "We can fight this. He's weak. She won't last long. We just need time." Did she truly believe age meant I couldn't stand my ground? Peter's eyes darted to mine, wide with something between guilt and longing, as though he wanted me to rescue him from the woman who had become his jailer. I remembered when those eyes were bright with wonder, when he begged me for bedtime stories and called me his hero. How had that boy grown into a man who could lock his own mother in an attic? And yet, standing there, I could almost see the child again, reaching for me. Could I forgive what he had done, or was forgiveness another chain I'd refused to wear? "Peter," I said, steady but soft, "look at me." His gaze lifted, trembling like a branch in the wind. "You know what's right. You know who I am. You know this house is more than walls. It's your father's hands, your childhood, your family." My voice cracked at the last word, because wasn't I still his family, no matter what he'd done? But before Peter could answer, Lauren snapped. "Enough!" she shouted, knocking the photographs to the floor. Her chest heaved, her eyes wild. "This house is ours. She's old, she's sick, and she's in the way. If you won't fight, then I will." Her voice echoed against the walls like poison. Could her greed burn away even the last ember of decency in my son? Tom bent to gather the photos, unshaken, and said, "Sheriff, I think we've seen enough. There's grounds for charges here. False imprisonment, elder abuse, fraud." His words rang out like a gavel, final and sharp. The sheriff's pen hovered over the report, ready to move. But would pressing ink to paper break my son beyond repair? Lauren tugged Peter toward the door, her heels biting into the wood. "We're not staying for this circus," she sneered. But Peter resisted, his hand slipping from hers. He looked at me one last time, lips trembling, and whispered, "Mom, I didn't know it would go this far." A single tear slid down his cheek. Was it too late for him to turn back? The sheriff's voice cut through the silence. "Mr. Hale, Mrs. Hale, you have a choice. Walk out now, or leave in handcuffs." His hand rested on his belt, steady as the law itself. My breath caught. Would my son choose freedom with his wife, or chains with his conscience? Peter's shoulders sagged as if the years of lies and silence had finally collapsed on him. He turned, looked at Lauren, and said something so soft I almost missed it. "I can't do this anymore." Her face twisted in shock, her nails clattering against the table as she realized her grip on him was slipping. Would she let him go, or drag him down with her? Before she could answer, the front door creaked open wider, the morning light spilling into the house like truth itself. The roses outside swayed gently, brushing against the glass, as if reminding me that even after fire and storm, they had bloomed again. But inside, the air was thick, waiting for the choice that would shape everything. Would Peter walk out the door with his head bowed in shame, or would the sheriff's cuffs click closed and turn this house into a courtroom? Do you want to know what happens next? Like this video, subscribe and comment, continue the next chapter so the story keeps unfolding. The kitchen felt like it was holding its breath. The sheriff's pen hovered, Tom's folder lay open, and Lauren's eyes darted between Peter and me like a cornered fox searching for an escape. My son's whisper, "I can't do this anymore," still rang in my ears, shaking loose every memory of the boy I had raised. Could this really be the moment he chose between the woman who gave him life and the woman who held his leash? Lauren's face twisted, her lips curling into a sneer. "Don't you dare," she hissed, stepping closer to Peter, her voice dripping venom. "After everything we planned, after everything we sacrificed, you're going to side with her? With an old woman who doesn't know when to step aside." The word old stabbed deep, but it was her fear that betrayed her. Was she more afraid of losing the house or losing control? Peter flinched, torn between two worlds. His shoulders shook as he looked from Lauren to me, then back to the sheriff. "I never wanted this," he muttered, his voice cracking like a boy's. "I just wanted us to be secure." His eyes glistened, desperate for someone to tell him what to do. But security built on betrayal, can that ever stand without collapsing? Tom stepped forward, his voice calm but cutting. "Mr. Hale, you had a choice from the start. You could have stood for your mother. Instead, you let greed blind you. But today, right now, you get one more chance." He slid the police report across the table, the blank line waiting like judgment. Would Peter find the courage to sign against himself and his wife, or let silence bury the truth? Lauren's hand shot out, snatching the paper before Peter could touch it. She crumpled it in her fist and shouted, "This is nonsense. She's manipulating you, Peter. She's always been manipulative. Think about it. Why else would she hide money? Why else would she have the deed changed behind our backs?" Her lies spilled out like acid, desperate to scorch the air before the truth could breathe. But wasn't desperation itself proof of guilt? The sheriff narrowed his eyes. "Ma'am, destroying evidence won't help your case." His voice was low, dangerous. He reached forward and plucked the crumpled page from her hand with ease, smoothing it flat again. Lauren froze, realizing the law didn't bend to tantrums. But would she accept defeat, or find one last strike? Peter's knees buckled, and he sank into a chair, burying his face in his hands. "I can't do this," he said, muffled by his palms. "I can't choose." His words were pitiful, but wasn't this exactly the choice he had been running from since the attic door slammed shut? The choice between decency and decay. I stepped closer, every step heavy with years of love and disappointment. "Peter," I said softly, "you already chose the night you turned that key. But today you can choose again." My voice wavered, but my gaze was steady. Could he see through the fog of Lauren's lies to the woman who had once rocked him to sleep? Lauren's eyes burned with fury. She gripped Peter's shoulders and leaned down, her voice like a whip. "Don't you dare betray me. If you side with her, you lose me. You lose everything." Her words sliced the air, but I saw Peter flinch as though the threat cut deeper than her nails ever could. Was this love, or just another prison? The sheriff glanced at Tom, then back at me. "Mrs. Hale," he said quietly, "you can press charges right now. Elder abuse, unlawful imprisonment, fraud. Do you want to proceed?" His pen waited, the law ready to strike. My heart clenched. Was I ready to drag my son and his wife through the fire of courtrooms and chains, or was there another way? Before I could answer, Peter lifted his head. His face was pale, streaked with tears, but his eyes were clearer than I'd seen in years. "Mom," he whispered, voice trembling but true, "I'm sorry. I should never have let this happen." The words fell heavy between us. But could an apology undo the nights I spent locked away in silence? Lauren gasped, fury exploding across her face. "You coward!" she screamed, shoving him so hard his chair scraped back. "You're nothing without me. Nothing." Her voice cracked like glass, and for the first time I saw her mask shatter. Was her rage born from love, or from the fear of losing her grip on his soul? The sheriff moved quickly, stepping between them. "That's enough," he said firmly. "Mrs. Hale, you're leaving this property right now. Any further resistance, and I'll be forced to take you into custody." His hand hovered near his cuffs, ready to end this battle with cold steel. But would Lauren surrender, or was one last act of defiance brewing in her chest? Peter rose slowly, his shoulders sagging but his steps steady, and he looked at me with a broken kind of resolve. "I'll face whatever comes," he said. His voice was stronger now, almost like the man I'd once hoped he'd become. But what price would he pay for stepping back into the light? Was it too late to be redeemed? Lauren's scream tore through the house as she lunged. Not at Peter, not at the sheriff, but straight toward me. Her eyes were wild, her hands clawed, and in that moment, I realized greed doesn't just destroy, it consumes. Would she reach me before someone stopped her? Or would this house become a battlefield drenched in more than just words? Do you want to see what happens when greed turns to violence? Like this video, subscribe and comment, continue chapter 4, so the next part of the story drops right away. Lauren's shriek pierced through the house as she lunged at me, her hands outstretched like talons. For a split second, I saw nothing but her face twisted with rage, eyes burning with the madness of someone who knew her grip on everything was slipping away. My heart slammed in my chest, but my feet stayed planted on the old kitchen floorboards that had carried me through decades of storms. Would this be the moment her hatred finally tore me down? Before her hands could reach me, the sheriff stepped in, moving with the swiftness of a man who had broken up bar fights and dragged drunks from ditches. His arm shot out, catching her wrist midair. "Enough!" he barked, his voice like thunder rolling through the house. Lauren twisted and fought, her screams bouncing off the walls, but his grip was unshakable. Could rage alone overpower the weight of the law? Peter froze in the corner, his mouth open, his face pale as milk. He didn't move to help her. He didn't move to help me either. He just stood there, torn in two, like a boy caught between parents in a storm. His silence hurt almost as much as the attic lock had, because wasn't he the one who should have stopped her long before this moment? Lauren spat toward the floor, her voice venomous. "She doesn't deserve this house. She doesn't deserve anything. She's old, useless, and selfish. We deserved that money. We deserved that life." Her words rattled the air, but under them was fear, sharp and desperate. Was her fury truly about the house, or about the life she thought had slipped through her fingers forever? The sheriff twisted her arms behind her back, the metal cuffs clicking into place with a sound so final it echoed in my bones. "You're under arrest for attempted assault," he said, his tone cold, unyielding. Lauren thrashed, but the clink of the cuffs reminded everyone that her reign of control was over. Could she still twist her way out, or was this the end of her schemes? Peter finally stumbled forward, his hands shaking. "Wait," he begged, looking at the sheriff. "Please, she didn't mean it. She's scared. We can work this out. Don't take her." His voice cracked with desperation, clinging to the last threads of loyalty. But wasn't this plea proof that he still hadn't learned? That he still thought love meant excusing destruction? I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time I didn't just see my son. I saw the man who had chosen silence when I begged from the attic door, the man who had let greed chain me in my own home. My heart ached, but my resolve was harder now. "Peter," I said quietly, "love doesn't mean letting someone destroy you. Love means protecting, not imprisoning." Would he hear me this time, or would my words slide past him like they always had? Lauren thrashed in the sheriff's grip, her face twisted with hate. "Don't listen to her. She's manipulating you. She always has. She's the reason you're small, the reason you've never gotten ahead. She's holding you back, Peter. Without her, we'd finally be free." Her voice cracked into a sob, desperation spilling through the cracks of fury. But wasn't that the truth of greed? It promises freedom but delivers chains. Peter's face crumpled, torn between the woman he married and the mother who raised him. His lips trembled as he whispered, "I thought we were building a future." His words floated in the silence, fragile and broken. Could he finally see that the foundation he'd built on Lauren's promises was nothing but quicksand? The sheriff nodded at Tom. "She'll be processed. We'll let the court sort the rest. Tom's eyes met mine, steady and strong. You don't have to carry this burden alone anymore, Margaret, he said softly. His words were like a bomb, but inside me a question burned. Had I truly won, or had the battle just changed shape? As Lauren was dragged toward the door, she twisted her head back and spat one final warning. This isn't over. Houses can crumble, old women die, but debts don't disappear. You'll regret this. Her words lingered like smoke long after the door slammed shut behind her. Was she right? Had I only bought myself peace for today, not forever? Peter slumped into a chair, burying his face in his hands. What have I done? He muttered, the words muffled but heavy. For the first time I saw him break. Not in anger, not in denial, but in shame. My heart twisted. Could a mother truly turn her back on her child, even after such betrayal? I wanted to reach out to place a hand on his shoulder, but the image of the attic door slammed shut flashed in my mind. My hand hung frozen in the air. Forgiveness was a river, but wasn't it too soon to step into its waters? The house was quiet now, the kind of quiet that followed storms when trees still dripped rain and the ground smelled of earth torn open. But beneath that quiet, a question hummed. Was this truly the end of Lauren's grip, or just the beginning of another shadow creeping toward us? Do you think Peter deserves forgiveness, or should Margaret let him face the consequences alone? Like this video, subscribe and comment, continue Chapter 5, to uncover the next twist in the story. The echo of the slammed door lingered, but the silence that followed was heavier than any storm. The sheriff's car pulled away with Lauren inside, her curses muffled by metal and distance, yet I could still feel them clawing at the walls. The house felt lighter without her, but Peter sat slumped at the kitchen table, his face buried in his hands, trembling. Was it the weight of guilt pressing down on him, or the fear of what life without Lauren would mean? I stood across from him, my hands gripping the back of a chair to steady myself. My knees ached, my wrists still bore faint marks from the attic latch, but my spirit burned steady. For years I had been dismissed as fragile, old, expendable. But wasn't it the cracks in old stone that proved it had weathered the most storms? Tom placed a hand on my shoulder, steady and sure. Margaret, he said, you have decisions to make. Pressing charges could mean prison time for both of them. Or you can let this end with her in custody for the assault. His eyes searched mine, waiting for an answer. But could justice ever truly heal betrayal, or did it only dress the wound in bandages of law? Peter lifted his head slowly. His face was pale, eyes rimmed red. Mom, he whispered, his voice raw. Please don't press charges. I'll do anything. I'll make this right. Just don't send us both to jail. His words fell heavy between us. But where was this plea when I begged for freedom through the attic door? Was it love speaking now, or desperation to save himself? I wanted to believe him, to believe that somewhere beneath the man who betrayed me was still the boy who once carried dandelions into the kitchen, insisting they were flowers for me. But trust, once broken, is not easily mended. Could I risk believing him again? The sheriff cleared his throat. Mrs. Hale, this is your call. But know this, if you let them off too easy, people like her come back twice as hard. His gaze was steady, firm. I've seen it before. His words struck deep. Was Lauren truly finished, or was she already plotting her return? Peter slid off the chair onto his knees, his hands clasped as though in prayer. Mom, I was wrong. I let her convince me you were a burden. I thought if we sold the house we could build something new. But I see now we tried to build a future by destroying you. Please, please forgive me. His voice cracked into sobs, and tears darkened the wood floor. But were tears proof of repentance, or just another tool to soften my heart? Tom's eyes flicked toward me. It's your choice, Margaret, he said quietly. No one else can make it for you. My fingers dug into the chair until the wood bit back. It's always choice. And yet every choice carried a cost. Mercy could be weakness. Justice could sever what little family I had left. Which wound was I willing to live with? I took a deep breath, my eyes closing for a moment as memories surged. Peter's laughter as a boy. His hand in mine at his father's funeral. His silence outside the attic door. My heart pulled in two directions. Forgive or condemn. Which path led to peace? When I opened my eyes, Peter was still kneeling, his shoulders shaking. "I'll leave if you want me to," he whispered. "I'll never set foot in this house again. Just don't destroy me completely." His voice cracked into silence. Could I send away my only son, even if he had already abandoned me? I stepped closer, my voice low but firm. "Peter," I said, "I may forgive you one day, but forgiveness does not erase consequences. You must face what you did. You must live with it just as I lived in that attic. If you truly want redemption, prove it, not with words but with actions." His eyes widened, desperate to know if there was still a path back. Was I offering him hope, or a sentence? The sheriff tapped his pen against the table. "So what's it going to be, Mrs. Hale? Press charges, or let him walk with her fate hanging over him?" The room held its breath, waiting for my answer. Even the roses brushing against the window seemed to still. I looked at Peter, then at Tom, then at the papers on the table. My hand hovered over the report, the blank line waiting for my signature. My pen touched the page, ink ready to spill. But at the last second I froze. Was I about to save my son, or doom myself to another betrayal? The clock on the wall ticked louder, as though it too demanded an answer. My chest tightened, the air thick. I pressed the pen down, ready to decide once and for all, when suddenly the front door creaked open. Every head whipped toward the sound. Boots stepped over the threshold. And then a voice, smooth and sharp as broken glass, cut through the silence. "You think you've won, old woman." Lauren stood there, out of cuffs, out of the sheriff's car, her eyes blazing like a fire that refused to be put out. How had she gotten free so quickly? And what storm was she about to bring crashing down on us now? Do you think Lauren escaped through cunning or corruption? Like this video, subscribe and comment. Continue Chapter 6, to see how the nightmare deepens. The sight of Lauren standing in the doorway froze the air in my lungs. The sheriff's car had pulled away minutes ago, yet here she was, no cuffs, no deputy, just her, standing tall with fury burning in her eyes. My grip tightened on the pen in my hand until my knuckles ached. How could she be back so soon? Had she slipped through the cracks of justice, or had someone helped her? The sheriff spun around, his face darkening. "What the hell?" he muttered, reaching for his radio. But Lauren smirked, that cruel twist of lips that I had seen too many times before. "You think a couple of tin cuffs can stop me?" she said, her voice dripping with poison. "This house is mine. This family is mine. And I'm not going anywhere." Her words rang like a curse across the kitchen walls. Tom stepped forward, his body angled protectively toward me. "Lauren," he said, his voice calm but sharp, "you're making this worse for yourself. Whatever trick you pulled to get loose, it won't save you. The law doesn't forget." His words carried weight, but Lauren's smirk only widened. Was she so blinded by rage that she couldn't see the walls closing in on her? Peter rose slowly from the floor, his face pale, his voice trembling. "Lauren, how are you even here?" His confusion was raw, but beneath it was something else, fear. Did he know her well enough to realize she was far more dangerous when cornered? Lauren's eyes snapped to him, narrowing. "Don't you dare question me. Mine. Everything we planned is still in play, Peter. Don't think one tear on the floor will change that." Her words lashed out like a whip, and I saw Peter flinch. Could he finally see the chains she had wrapped around his life? The sheriff spoke into his radio, calling for backup, but Lauren's eyes shifted back to me. "You think you've beaten me," she said, stepping closer, her voice low and venomous. "But you don't understand. I've waited too long for this life. I won't go back to being nobody. You can hide behind papers and policemen, but you can't hide forever." Her footsteps echoed as she closed the distance between us. Would she strike again, even in front of the law? I lifted my chin, forcing my voice to stay steady despite the quiver in my knees. This house doesn't belong to greed, Lauren. It belongs to love, to memory, to family. You'll never understand that because you've only ever built your life on taking, not giving. My voice cracked, but I held her gaze. Could words alone stand against her fury? Peter suddenly moved, stepping between us, his hands raised. Stop it, Lauren. This isn't you. His voice was shaky, but his body was firm for the first time. You've gone too far. I can't let you hurt her again. His eyes darted to me, then back to her. Was this the moment my son finally chose? Lauren's face twisted, her voice rising into a scream. Don't you dare betray me, Peter. Everything you are is because of me. Without me, you're nothing but her pathetic little boy, still running to mommy. The venom of her words filled the room, but in her fury, she revealed the truth. Her power only lived in his weakness. Could this be the moment that broke her hold over him? The sheriff's radio crackled. Backup was on the way. But Lauren lunged again, her body wild with rage. Tom grabbed my arm, pulling me back, but Peter caught her wrists midair this time. His face was wet with tears, but his grip was iron. No more, Lauren, he shouted, his voice breaking but strong. No more lies. No more hate. You don't own me. His words thundered louder than her scream. But would he have the strength to hold on? Lauren thrashed, clawing at his arms, her eyes burning with betrayal. You worthless coward, she spat, her voice ragged. You'll regret this. Both of you will regret this. Her words cracked into sobs, her strength faltering as she realized the grip she once held was slipping for good. Could a woman consumed by greed accept defeat? Or would she fight until the very end? The sheriff moved in, seizing her arms again, and this time when the cuffs clicked shut, they held firm. You're done, ma'am, he said, his tone final. Lauren screamed, cursed, twisted, but the sound of approaching sirens drowned her out. This time she wouldn't walk free so easily. But even as she was dragged away, her words lingered like a shadow. This isn't over. The house fell into silence again once the door slammed behind them. Peter sank into a chair, trembling, his face buried in his hands once more. Mom, he whispered, broken and raw. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Not after what I let her do to you. But I swear to you, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right. His voice cracked, and for the first time I saw sincerity in his eyes. Could a son who had betrayed his mother truly find redemption? I looked at him, the boy I had raised, the man who had wronged me, and the child who still lived inside him. My heart ached with both love and pain. Forgiveness was a bridge. But was I ready to cross it yet? And then, just as the weight of the moment pressed down, Tom's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his face tightening. Margaret, he said slowly, you need to hear this. The deed, the paperwork, it's not as final as we thought. The room tilted. My breath caught. Could it be that after everything my home still wasn't safe? Sire, do you think Margaret's house is truly secure? Or is there another twist waiting in the shadows? Like this video, subscribe and comment. Continue Chapter 7 to find out the shocking truth. Tom's words dropped into the room like a stone into still water, sending ripples of dread through me. The deed isn't final. My chest tightened, my grip on the chair faltering. I had thought the nightmare was over, that the papers, the law, the sheriff's badge had sealed the victory. But now Tom's face was grave, his voice low. There's a loophole, Margaret, he said, holding up his phone with the email glowing on the screen. The transfer to your name was corrected, yes, but the previous attempt they filed wasn't voided cleanly. If they push it, they could challenge your ownership in court. The words spun in my head like a cruel echo. After everything, the attic, the betrayal, Lauren's venom, Peter's tears, was my home still dangling over a cliff? My house, the place where I had lived through love, grief, birthdays and storms, wasn't truly safe yet. Would I lose everything after all? Peter lifted his head, his face stricken. "Mom," he whispered, his voice rough from crying. "I didn't know. I thought when we signed those papers it was done." His eyes flicked to Tom, then back to me. "Tell me there's something I can do. Tell me I can fix this." Was this desperation real, or just another attempt to wash away guilt? Tom sighed, setting his phone on the table. "There is a way. But it won't be easy." He looked directly at me, then at Peter. "We'll need to fight this in court. And the truth will have to come out, the attic, the false imprisonment, everything. Margaret, are you prepared for that?" His voice was steady, but beneath it I heard the question he didn't speak aloud. "Are you ready to put your own son on trial if it comes to it?" The thought made my stomach twist. I could still see Peter as a boy, clutching his stuffed bear, asking me to read one more story. I could still feel the warmth of his little hand in mine at the farmer's market. And yet, I could also still hear the attic door slam shut, feel the cold of those nights, taste the bitterness of betrayal. Could love and justice live side by side, or would one kill the other? Peter pushed himself to his feet, his hands trembling. "I'll testify," he said suddenly. His voice cracked, but his eyes were steady. "I'll tell the court what we did, what I let happen. If it saves you, Mom, if it saves this house, then I'll do it." His words hung in the air, shocking everyone, including himself. Could he truly bear to condemn the woman he once swore to protect? His own wife, and by extension himself? I stared at him, my heart torn in two. On one side, the love of a mother who had prayed for this moment of truth. On the other, the fear that exposing everything would shatter what little family bond we had left. "Peter," I whispered, "do you understand what that means? You could lose everything." My voice shook, but I needed him to see the weight of his choice. His lips trembled, but he nodded. "I already did," he said softly. "When I locked you in that attic, when I let Lauren twist me into something I'm not, I lost myself. Maybe this is the only way to find me again." His words cut deep, raw, and unpolished. But was this truly his redemption, or just another fragile promise that could break at the first sign of pressure? Tom nodded firmly. "Then we'll prepare." "But Margaret..." He looked at me, his eyes filled with concern. "If you want to avoid this, there's another way. You could transfer the deed into a trust, secure it beyond anyone's reach. But it would mean giving up direct control. It would protect the house, but it wouldn't be fully yours anymore." His words were practical, but they carved at me. After fighting so hard to reclaim my home, could I really hand it over, even for safety? I sank into a chair, my body heavy with years and choices. My fingers brushed the table, worn smooth by decades of family meals, birthday cakes, and late-night cups of tea. This house wasn't just wood and stone. It was my life, my husband's memory, my son's childhood. And now it stood at a crossroads. Courtroom battles, or a trust that would lock it away like a jewel in a vault. Which path held the promise of peace? Peter's voice broke the silence. "Mom, whatever you decide, I'll stand with you. Not with Lauren. Not with greed. With you." His eyes shimmered with something I hadn't seen in years, truth. But was it too late for the truth to heal the scars of betrayal? Before I could answer, the distant growl of a car engine drifted through the window. My stomach dropped. The sheriff had already taken Lauren, but the sound outside was familiar. Tires crunched over gravel, headlights swept across the porch, and then the unmistakable slam of a car door echoed in the night. Tom's head snapped toward the window. "That's her car," he muttered, his jaw tightening. My heart lurched. Could it be? Had she already found a way back again? The front door rattled as a hand gripped the knob. And then Lauren's voice, muffled but sharp, cut through the wood. "You can't keep me out forever. Site, do you believe Lauren has returned for revenge, or is this a trap bigger than anyone imagined?" Like this video, subscribe and comment. Continue Chapter 8, to witness the storm about to break. The door rattled harder, Lauren's voice slicing through the wood like a knife. "You can't keep me out forever." My chest tightened, the pen I still clutched nearly slipping from my fingers. She had already been dragged away in cuffs. The sheriff's car had disappeared down the street. Yet here she was, or at least her voice, slithering back into the house like smoke from a fire you thought you'd put out. Was she really at the door, or was this some cruel echo she planted in our minds? The sheriff cursed under his breath, his hand going straight to his holster. He strode forward and yanked the door wide open. For a moment, the night air rushed in, cold, sharp, heavy with the smell of damp earth. But the porch was empty. Only the hum of a car engine lingered somewhere down the lane. No figure stood waiting, no shadow moved across the gravel. Lauren's words still rang, though her face was nowhere to be seen. How could a voice feel more dangerous than a body? Tom stepped up beside him, peering into the darkness. It could be a bluff, he said tightly. She could have shouted from the drive and run back to her car. Or, his voice faltered, or someone let her out. The thought made the air colder, sharper. If she had help, then her reach was deeper than we feared. Who else would stand with a woman who thrived on cruelty? Peter staggered to the doorframe, his eyes wide, his face pale. She won't stop, he whispered. Mom, she'll keep coming back until she gets what she wants. His voice cracked into a sob, and he pressed his palms against his head. I brought her into our lives. I gave her this power. And now? His words dissolved into silence. Could guilt alone protect us now, or would it paralyze him again? The sheriff pulled his radio to his mouth. Back up now, he barked. Suspect may have accomplices. His words shot out into the night like bullets, but even his authority couldn't erase the truth gnawing at all of us. Lauren wasn't done. She was circling, waiting, plotting. And the house that should have been my refuge felt like a cage once again. I moved closer to Peter, my voice sharp but trembling. Do you see now? I asked, forcing him to meet my gaze. This isn't about me, or even this house. It's about her hunger. And if you don't stand against her now, she'll devour everything, including you. My throat burned, but my words were clear. Would he finally hear me this time, or collapse back into the shadows of her control? Peter's hands dropped, his eyes wet but fierce. No, he said hoarsely. Not again. I let her lock you away once. I let her twist me into something I wasn't. But no more. If she wants a fight, she'll get it, from me this time. His shoulders squared, his back straightened. For a moment, I saw not just my son, but a man clawing his way out of the wreckage of his mistakes. Could redemption really begin here, in the ashes of betrayal? Tom nodded, his voice calm but urgent. Then we prepare. Margaret, this isn't just about your house anymore, it's about your safety. Lauren's desperate, and desperate people do reckless things. You need protection. Until this is settled in court, you can't stay here alone. His eyes searched mine. Do you trust Peter to stay with you? Or should I make arrangements? Question hung heavy. I turned to my son, the boy I had once trusted with my heart, the man who had left me in an attic. His eyes pleaded, his words trembled, but his stance was solid. Could I risk letting him guard me now, when only weeks ago he had been my captor? The silence was broken by the crunch of tires on gravel again, this time closer, sharper. Headlights sliced through the curtains. A car pulled into the drive, its engine rumbling like a threat. The sheriff stepped back into the doorway, hand on his holster again, his body tense. Stay behind me, he ordered. The engine cut off. A door slammed. Footsteps crunched across the gravel. My pulse hammered in my ears. And then, through the thin night air, a woman's voice rose. Not Lauren's sharp hiss, but another, steadier, colder. You've made a mistake siding against her. Another accomplice. Another shadow in Lauren's web. And as the sheriff lifted his weapon, as Tom stepped closer to me, as Peter clenched his fists, I realized this wasn't just about my house anymore. This was war. Side. Do you think Lauren's allies will break Margaret's defenses, or will the truth finally bring them down? Like this video, subscribe and comment. Continue Chapter 9. To watch the storm explode. The voice from the driveway sliced through the night like ice water down my spine. You've made a mistake siding against her. Every word dripped with menace, calm yet seething, as if spoken by someone who had rehearsed threats for years. My hands gripped the arms of my chair so tightly I could feel my nails digging into the wood. If Lauren had allies, then this fight was bigger than I ever imagined. Could a 72-year-old woman truly withstand a war waged on her very doorstep? The sheriff stepped onto the porch, his weapon drawn. "Identify yourself," he barked, his voice firm, commanding. For a moment, the night held its breath. Then a figure stepped into the glow of the headlights. Broad shoulders, a dark coat, a face hidden in shadow. The stranger's posture was steady, confident. "I'm here to collect what belongs to Lauren," he said. "Hand over the papers, or things will get worse for all of you." His words were calm, but beneath them was a threat as sharp as broken glass. Tom stiffened beside me, his jaw tightening. "Margaret, stay back," he whispered, though his voice trembled with urgency. Peter moved too, but not toward the door. Instead, he stepped in front of me, arms spread wide, his chest heaving. For once, he wasn't hiding. For once, he was trying to shield me. But could the same man who locked me in an attic truly become my protector now? The sheriff raised his voice again. "This is private property. Leave now or you'll be arrested." His gun gleamed in the porch light. But the stranger didn't flinch. Instead, he reached into his coat slowly, deliberately. My breath caught. Was it a weapon? Was this about to turn my home into a battleground of blood instead of betrayal? Then, in a cruel twist, he pulled out not a gun, but a thick envelope. He tossed it onto the porch, where it landed with a heavy thud. "Court papers," he said smoothly. "Filed already. Contesting the deed. Lauren has friends in high places, and trust me, she's not going away." His smile was visible now, a grin so confident it chilled me more than a weapon ever could. Was this battle not to be fought with fists, but with laws twisted into knives? Tom stepped forward, snatching up the envelope, his face darkening as he skimmed the first page. "It's real," he muttered. "She's filed for injunction. If this sticks, the house is frozen until trial." My stomach dropped. Frozen. My life, my sanctuary, my memories. Trapped in legal chains until strangers decided my fate. Could a courtroom take from me what even the attic couldn't? Peter's fists clenched. "No," he growled, his voice trembling but fierce. "This is my mother's house. You hear me? My mother's house. You can't just—" His words faltered, caught between rage and regret, but for once, his voice carried truth. I looked at him, torn between sorrow and pride. Could this really be the man who finally chose me over her? The stranger tilted his head, amused. "Funny," he said softly, "that the same son who signed it away once now wants to play the hero." His words stabbed through the night, cruel and precise. Peter flinched, his face burning with shame, but he didn't step back. Not this time. Could standing his ground now erase the shadows of his betrayal? The sheriff tightened his grip on the gun. "You've delivered your message. Now get off this property before I put you in cuffs myself." His voice was low, deadly serious. For a moment, I thought the stranger might resist. But then he chuckled, a low, mocking sound, and stepped back into the dark. "This isn't over," he said. "Lauren always gets what she wants." Then the engine roared to life, and the car peeled away, leaving us choking on exhaust and dread. The kitchen felt colder when we returned inside. Tom tossed the papers onto the table, his hands shaking. "This changes everything," he said. "The house is safe for now, but if this injunction moves forward, it could drag on for months. And Lauren will use every dirty trick in the book." His eyes found mine. "Margaret, you need to prepare yourself. This fight isn't over." I sank into my chair, my bones aching, my spirit weary. I had survived a locked attic, survived betrayal from my own son, survived Lauren's venom. But this This was a war of ink and gavel, of lies wrapped in legal robes. Could I endure it? Could I survive losing the house, even after reclaiming it once already? Peter knelt by my side, his hand trembling as it reached for mine. "Mom," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I swear to you I'll stand with you this time. I'll testify. I'll give them everything, the truth about the attic, about Lauren, about me. Whatever it takes to make this right." His eyes pleaded, shimmering with guilt and hope. But was his promise enough to battle Lauren's growing shadow? Tom leaned forward, his voice grim. "Margaret, you need to decide tonight. Do we fight in court, or do we lock this house into a trust so tight even Lauren's allies can't touch it? One road means war. The other means safety, but at a cost. Either way, the storm is coming." His words weighed heavy, pressing against my chest. And then, from the window, a faint glow flickered against the glass. My heart lurched. Outside, at the edge of the garden, a small flame danced. The roses swayed, catching the light. My stomach turned cold. Fire. Was Lauren's war no longer just in the courts, but in the dark with matches and gasoline? Side. Do you think Lauren will burn Margaret's house to the ground, or will someone stop her in time? Like this video, subscribe and comment, continue chapter 10, to see the shocking conclusion. The flicker outside grew brighter, and the smell hit me, a sharp, acrid sting of gasoline that clawed its way through the window cracks. My breath caught in my throat. Fire. After everything, after courts and papers and police, Lauren had turned to the oldest weapon of all, flames. My home, the place that had sheltered every joy and every sorrow of my 72 years, was seconds away from being swallowed whole. Could I really watch my life's work go up in smoke? The sheriff rushed to the door, radio already crackling. "We've got an arson attempt. Send the fire department now." His boots pounded against the porch steps as he tore toward the glow. Tom grabbed a bucket by the sink, filling it with water as fast as the tap would allow. His jaw tight with determination. For a man who had been my lawyer for years, tonight he was fighting like a soldier. But was water enough against a woman's hatred set ablaze? Peter froze for only a second, then bolted past both men. His face was pale, but his legs carried him straight into the night. "Lauren," he shouted, his voice hoarse. "Stop this." His cry rang through the dark. For once, he wasn't hiding behind her or standing in her shadow. He was running toward her, to drag her away from the fire. Was this courage, or desperation for redemption before it was too late? Through the window I saw her, Lauren's figure hunched by the rose bushes, a red gas can in her hand, her hair wild, her eyes reflecting the glow of the flame she held. She looked less like a woman and more like a spirit of rage, a being consumed by her own bitterness. She turned at Peter's voice, her lips curling into a smile that chilled me to the bone. "If I can't have it," she hissed, "then no one can." Peter lunged for her, grabbing her wrist just as she tipped the flame toward the bushes. The lighter fell, clattering against the wet earth, and the small fire sputtered against the night air. His arms locked around hers, struggling, desperate. "No more," he cried, his voice breaking. "You won't destroy her. You won't destroy this house." His words were raw, torn from somewhere deep. But would his strength hold against the fury that had poisoned her soul? The sheriff charged in, shoving Peter aside just enough to seize Lauren's arms. She fought like a wild animal, clawing, spitting, screaming words so foul they made the night itself shudder. But the cuffs clicked again, louder this time, stronger, final. She collapsed to her knees, shrieking curses, her eyes burning holes through me as if her rage could still leap across the garden and devour me whole. "You'll regret this, old woman," she spat, her voice ragged. "This isn't the end." But the fire had been stopped. The roses swayed in the night air, their petals singed but still clinging to life. My heart pounded, my hands trembling, but relief washed over me like rain. My home, scarred but standing, had survived yet another storm. Could it finally rest now? Or would Lauren's shadow linger even from behind bars? The fire trucks arrived minutes later, their lights bathing the house in red. Neighbors gathered at the edge of the street, whispering, their faces a mix of shock and pity. I stood on the porch, wrapped in a blanket Tom had draped over my shoulders, watching as Lauren was shoved into the back of a squad car once again. This time her eyes held something new. Not just rage but defeat. Could even fire not bend the walls of a house built on love? Peter stood beside me, his clothes streaked with dirt, his face wet with sweat and tears. "Mom," he whispered, his voice trembling. I tried to stop her. "I swear I'll keep trying for as long as it takes. I know I don't deserve it, but please, please give me a chance to be your son again." His hand hovered near mine, not quite touching, as if he didn't dare until I gave permission. Could forgiveness heal a scar so deep, or would it only tear me open again? I turned to him slowly, my heart heavy with both pain and love. "Peter," I said softly, my voice quivering, "trust is earned, not begged for. You broke something in me that may never fully mend. But tonight you chose to fight for me instead of against me. That's a start." Tears blurred my eyes, but I let my fingers brush against his. "Just a touch." Beginning. Tom stepped closer, his voice steady. "Margaret, with Lauren behind bars and the fire stopped, the case in court will be easier to win. But remember, this house isn't just brick and wood. You. And as long as you stand, they'll never truly take it." His words warmed me, firm as the ground beneath my feet. Could it be true, that my spirit was the strongest foundation of all? I looked out at the house, the porch light glowing against its worn walls, the roses swaying in the breeze. It had been nearly stolen, nearly burned, nearly broken. But it still stood. And so did I. The night was quiet again when the last siren faded, the crowd dispersed, and the stars returned to their places in the sky. Peter lingered by my side, uncertain but hopeful. Tom stood near the gate, watchful and steady. And I, Margaret Hale, 72 years old, survivor of fire, betrayal, and greed, breathed deeply in the place that was still mine. The house had been tested. I had been tested. And though the scars would remain, both of us had endured. Because in the end, love is stronger than greed, truth is stronger than lies, and even in the darkest attic, hope finds a way to survive. Did you learn the lesson in this story? That family built on greed will crumble, but love and truth will always endure? If you want more powerful stories like this, don't forget to like this video, subscribe and comment more stories to keep the lessons alive.